So, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Tero Pesan, and I'm the chair of Critical Communications Broadband Group in TCCA. Wonderful to have you with us today. Here we have Puneet, that was recently just newly elected to be the 3GPP SA chair. Congratulations! Wonderful to have you with us to share a little bit about the progress in SA and the future. With this, I'll hand over to you. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Tero, for this introduction, and thank you for this opportunity. Hello, everyone. My name is Puneet Jain, and I'm really happy to be here. As Tero mentioned, I am extremely humbled and honored to be elected as a new TSG chair. And my other role is 3GPP SA2, which is a system architecture group. I'm also chairing that until May of this year. In the May meeting in SA2, we would have elections for the new SA2 leadership, and I would hand over that responsibility to the new leadership at that point of time. So basically today I wanted to talk a little bit about the key highlights from SA 99 meeting. Obviously, the top highlight was the SA chair elections, where I had an honor and a privilege to be elected as a new SA chair, and I look forward to working with everyone in SA, including critical communications community and the members. Also on the vice chair side, basically all the current vice chairs have been elected for the second term. So I also look forward to working with the SA vice chairs and driving the 3GPP specifications work in efficient, intelligent manner. So another thing which basically I wanted to share was the key decision which has happened in last plenary was around the release 19 timeline. So the current planning was basically that SA1 stage 1 work is ongoing, and it would be 80% complete by September and 100% completion by December. So this is about the normative work. On the RAN side, we have the work will kick off with the release 19 workshop, and then the 2 quarters would be spent in discussion and leading to a release 19 content definition in December plenary, which is a TSG 102. On the SA side, we had a similar process, basically a June workshop, which is in Taipei, would start a discussion on release 19 contents and proposal, and we have a 2 quarters until December to finalize the release 19 content. The key difference is in SA side, there is a 2-step approval process, which basically means the first content approval will be happening in September. And what that means is that some subset of or a small number of study items can be approved in September, and those can be scheduled in Q4 in the working groups, especially SA2 in this case. And then the final content approval will be in December. That would be the second stage along with the RAN. So this is how little difference between the SA and the RAN side. On the SA is having two-step content approval process. Then the key thing which was also agreed was the timeline. Now the overall timeline is agreed to be 18 months, and stage 2 will be having a stage 2 freeze in December, which is TSG 106, and the stage 3 and CT and SA would be freezing in September in the TSG meeting 109. And then another quarter for ASN and Open API freeze. So final release 19 completion date would be December of 2025. So these were the key things which was agreed. There were quite a bit of a discussions around, between different members, whether we need to have a different timeline and at the end, everybody came together and agreed on these timelines. So just a representation of these timelines in the textual format, as I already mentioned, that June is the time when we would have a RAN workshops as well as a essay workshops. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the planning on the essay workshops in the subsequent slides. And then September 2023 is basically where essay 1, which is a stage 1 service requirement, would be 180% normative work would be completed. And in December, we would have 100% completion of the work. And that's also basically the time for the release 19 content definition. And the other timelines are like what I mentioned about stage 2 freeze, RAN 1 freeze, as well as the RAN 2, RAN 3, and RAN 4 freeze, which will be happening in September, and the overall final freeze, including ASN and OpenAPI freeze in December 2025. Okay, so a little bit of on the workshop planning. RAN is going to have a workshop on the same week on Thursday and Friday. So I think the meeting is happening from June 12th to June 16th. RAN workshop happening on June 15th and 16th. From the essay side, we would have a 2 days dedicated workshop on June 13th and 14th. This is for two reasons. One is to avoid an overlap with the RAN workshop, and also to avoid an overlap with the CT meetings, which would be happening on Monday. So this was a compromise which we reached, basically to allow CT as well as the folks which are interested in participating from the RAN side on the essay workshop. The format of the workshop would be, it will be a 2 days dedicated workshop. The first day would be on the June 13th, which is Tuesday, and the full day of that workshop will be dedicated to company's presentation coming from 3GPP members or any external presentations from other members, including the MRPs and all different members, including 3GPP and non-3GPP members may be able to present their views. Then on second day of the workshop, the half of day would be continuation of these presentations from the members. Again, depending upon the total number of input contributions, I would make a decision on the maximum time limit for each presentation. But you can expect something from 5 minutes to 10 minutes, of time would be allocated for each presentation. And then the remaining half a day of second day on Wednesday is where we would have a summary or output report from the workshop. The key thing here is that we want this workshop to be more tangible in terms of having a meaningful output. Basically, that's where we want to discuss the summary and output report of this workshop for the remaining half a day. The essay meeting will then continue for Thursday and Friday. So it will start on Monday, but then we spend 2 days on the workshop, and then Thursday and Friday would be the continuation of the essay meeting. The input to the workshop would be the first one, top one would be the essay input on release 19 status. Essay 1 would provide, I think the main thing here is about what is the current status of release 19 study items, including also the normative work progress that has happened until June meeting. As I mentioned before, the target from essay 1 is to finalize release 19 work, normative work by December, 100%, and September around 80% completion. Then also the input would be the company contributions, 3GPP member contributions or MRPs on the release 19 views and priorities. And from the working group, we would have an input on their whole capacity of a working group. For example, how much time unit budget for release 19 they have since we have already agreed on the release 19 timeline. Another thing is how many study and the work items can be scheduled given that time frame, and the maximum size of the study and work item. So these would be some inputs from the working group, especially SA2, which is the big working group, and that has always a constraint on the timing for many of these study items. So that would be something which would be required from the working group level. Then the key thing is about this output of the workshop. So what is desired is basically after the discussion from all the input contributions, we'll have a discussion on the creating a high-level summary report from this workshop. And the key thing there would be to identify what are the core and miscellaneous release 19 items. This is basically to create a common understanding about the things where we see which have a broader commonality, and then they become part of the core items. And if we have seen some items which is seen in one or two company presentation, then they can become part of miscellaneous. The idea about that is basically the core items would have a much likelihood making into release 19, but miscellaneous items can also become part of release 19, but that requires further discussion. It is just basically that depending upon the level of support and what we see across the different presentations on how things look in terms of different release 19 items. Now, in terms of release 19 items, I want to clarify that it is more at a high level. It's not like a study or work item description, what we have at a working group level. The presentations is expected to be at a higher level where basically companies or members are providing input in terms of what is their view on either specific topic or a number of topics for release 19. Then the last thing is, which is one of the most important thing, is basically output of this workshop would be a guidance to the working groups in terms of these core and miscellaneous items from release 19, and then basically asking them to create the study items descriptions or the work item descriptions based on these high-level summary report. And this is basically they can take into consideration as they start drafting the study item descriptions or work item descriptions, keeping in mind their working group capacity in terms of TU budgets, how many maximum study items they can basically fit within a release 19 timeline and things like that. So this would be a clear guidance going to your working groups so that they can come back in September for approval of some of these release 19 items. So that is the overall plan for release 19 workshop. There has been some queries which I have received in terms of submission deadlines. So I would be working on those deadlines and detailed agenda for the workshop, which you can expect to be published in 1 or 2 weeks time frame. Okay, so I think that's all I have. I think this is the one of the key main highlights coming from the last essay plenary, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, very good, very good. Thank you very much from about that. Maybe you bring back the release 19 timeline there. So when we think about the basically, if I see it right, by the end of what we are now prioritizing in the workshop would be ready in the standards in release in end of 25. So we probably could expect it to be on the field in the hands of in our case of the critical communication users somewhere around 2027 maybe. maybe. And so this is important for us to recognize what is the duration of work, and quite importantly, obviously, most of the stage one work has already been done. So if we have a completely novel idea, which would then land in release 20, I suppose the SA1 starts on release 20 items somewhere in the fourth quarter, or mainly early next year. Then we could expect it to be on the field somewhere by the end of the decade. So I think it's quite important for our community to look sufficiently ahead in our dreams and expectations, in order to have those things then included in the process and work plan. We cannot go and expect 3GPP and the vendors to deliver something for us in say a year's time.
Yeah, I would very much agree with what you said, Tero. So basically, the time is now. If we have any release 19 requirements coming from the critical communication community, the work is already ongoing in stage one. So basically, I think there is not much room for in completely new study items for stage one. But then there is still a room to basically influence some of the ongoing studies, which will very soon become converted into the normative work, So this is the right time to influence any such release 19 requirements. And it becomes harder and harder as basically the studies finishes and the normative works starts to take shape in SA1. Then the another key opportunity is to basically participate in these release 19 workshops, both RAN as well as SA, and highlight the items which are of interest, so they get consideration in terms of getting a kind of a gauge in terms of how much support is there, and how much companies are willing to spend their time and resources in working on those items in stage 2 and stage 3 working groups. So these are the also very critical things where we need to have an input from the critical communication community. And
now,
obviously, yeah, please.
Now, considering that we representing the MRP, representing the critical communications community, what is your guidance to MRPs in general? How should we prepare ourselves, and what actions should we take before the workshop?
Yeah, I think the key thing is to basically come up with a harmonized list of the top priorities. If you see that your requirements are spread across multiple study items, then you want to have a consolidated list of those items on your presentation to these workshops. And again, please take into consideration the time frame here, right? Because although it's an 18-month, but for the stage 2, you really have around 15 months available, right? And that is also assuming that the work would start in September on some of these items. If the work is starting in December, then actually the timeline for stage 2 is quite short, which is around 4 quarters. So you have to keep this into mind and come up with a kind of a prioritized list in some sense already into these workshops. So that would be my top guidance, that once you have this presentation to the workshop, please have your, I would say, top 5 items that you want to highlight that are of importance to the critical communication community. So you need to have already a discussions ongoing in terms of finalizing or harmonizing those top items. And what I would not encourage is having a long laundry list of items, like kind of a maybe you can categorize into like a high priority and good to have, or must have kind of a presentation. That would be totally fine. But instead, what you should not try to do is having all the long list without any clear articulation on which of them are most important to the critical communication community. So that would be my top guidance. And obviously having some common understanding instead of having a multiple presentation, and having one joint presentation actually would be much more impactful.
Okay, thank you very much. That's really good guidance for us, and absolutely we will try to follow it as far as we are able to, and harmonize our view to the extent we can. Also discuss with other MRPs and see what they are looking for, and if we have some commonalities with each other. Thank you so much for this information here. Are there any other ideas or thoughts that you would like to highlight to our community at this point of time?
I mean, at this point of time, I think not too much. I mean, I'm also going to be working very closely with you guys. So basically, please reach out to me if you have any questions, or if you have any suggestions or comments on how you see the things can be done differently. I'm very open to all the suggestions, and I'll take them into a very serious consideration. So I'm here to serve the 3GPP community, including critical communication community, and I very much look forward to working with you closely. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you so much for your commitment, and thank you for sharing these thoughts and the information and guidance with us. Best of success to your task here as the chair. It is very demanding, very difficult. I must say that I do not envy you at all. Best of success in the workshops, and also in September and December for the decisions, and we hope that we are able to do our share for common standards for better societies, safer societies. So thank you for joining, and looking forward to have an update after the Taipei meeting, and hear what was the outcome of the workshop. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thanks again for the opportunity. I look forward to having the next call with you after June plenary. Thanks a lot. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.